One of the most disgusting, shameful, reprehensible things I have ever seen on the news in America.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So as you can see from that intro that I put in there, I've got some clips to show you guys. And you know, currently right now Democrats are at an all-time low. After Donald Trump's address to a joint session of Congress the other night, we actually saw just how deranged with Donald Trump Democrats are. They refuse to stand and clap for anything that he said, except when he was talking about, we spent $350 billion on this war, blah, 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 blah. They cheered for war, as a matter of fact. And when Donald Trump praises a 13-year-old boy, tries to bring light to a very, very dark situation with that kid, right? And trying to uplift his spirits and all that, made him an honorary Secret Service member. Democrats sat there with their hands crossed, just aggravated looking. I mean, one of them got kicked out. Of course, we already know this, but I got some clips to show you guys. We're going to go in on this because Democrats currently, once again, they're so deranged with Donald Trump that they just blinded to everything that represents civility in this country, that represents normality, that represents what politicians are supposed to be. Everybody is looking at Democrats right now. And speaking of that, you know, Gavin Newsom launches this new podcast, brings Charlie Kirk on, and gets absolutely eviscerated by Charlie Kirk several times over. It was great to see, but like I said, I got some clips to show you guys. But you know, before we do that, y'all smash that like button for me, subscribe if you're new around here, and if you're not new around here, why don't you join the membership to the channel? That would be great. I could ask for nothing more outside of that. But without any further ado, let's check out what Piers Morgan had to say about this.
Piers, what was that?
One of the most disgusting, shameful, reprehensible things I have ever seen on the news in America. And the bar was pretty high for that accolade. You know, I thought what Nicole Wallace did last night in taking that boy's story and in a weirdly dystopian, horrific way, asking us to think about whether he might kill himself. What on earth was she thinking? Why is she still in her job today? Why has nobody at NBC watched that back like the rest of us, aghast in horror, and said, you're fired? Because that was a disgusting thing to do. And she wasn't the only one at MSNBC. Rachel Maddow, in a laughably ironic rant about don't politicize this boy's story, then politicized his story. And they couldn't get their heads around it. Again, Laura, it was the lack of humanity. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. If you're a human being and that story doesn't just move you like a human being should be moved, there is something wrong with you. There was something wrong with those Democrats who didn't get up off their backside. There's something wrong with those MSNBC anchors. And it says an awful lot that they still pretend they are the caring ones, the compassionate ones.
Now, that was in response to this.
I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer, but I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide.
These people are just absolutely disgusting because they hate Donald Trump so much they can't even stand up and cheer for a kid that survived cancer, for crying out loud. This is an utter low point for Democrats at this point. It's totally disgusting what's going on here. Oh, I hope he has a long life. I hope he does. Like, are you serious right now with this? Like, you know what should happen is they should be immediately fired, but they're not going to be fired. Why? Because these people don't see a problem with it, because they're all Trump deranged as well. But you know, it's getting to a point in this country where we're getting to such a low point with our corporate press. I don't see how people are still watching cable news at this point, if not just to see what the disgusting things that these people have to say about Donald Trump. And that they smear Donald Trump. They lie to the American people on a constant and steady basis. It's getting utter ridiculous at this point that these people just can't seem to tell the truth for nothing. Even if their life depended on it, they would absolutely get in front of a camera and just outright blatantly lie to everybody and have no problems doing so. And she wasn't the only one. Rachel Maddow had this to say.
For the record, and this is disgusting, the president made a spectacle out of praising a young man who thus far survived pediatric cancer, as if the president had something to do with that. This was in the midst of him praising Doge. The Doge cuts, among other things, have cut off funding for ongoing research into pediatric cancer.
You know, it would be much simpler for these people just to leave it alone. Let it go. Don't even mention that. Well, you know, if you're mad at because he politicized something, right? That's not really politicization of that kid, right? He's just trying to show this kid, like, look, he survived cancer. This is a good family, blah, 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 blah. They always do things like this. They honor these families by doing this, right? It's not politicization, if you will, because he's not trying to say that, oh, he did something about the kid's cancer. Of course not. That's not what's going on here. But these people, they think that everything that Donald Trump does is only for himself. That's what these people think. And so when they see something like this, they think, oh, he's so narcissistic. He's politicizing this. But no, he's just honoring this family. That's all he's doing. And these people can't help but try to disparage Donald Trump for doing so. Oh, well, he was praising Doge for cutting off cancer research, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? There's a lot of that research that is nonsense, as a matter of fact. Once again, I bring it back to this. Government-funded cancer research is not the only cancer research that goes on. The private sector funds cancer research a whole hell of a lot more than government does. And that's another thing, right? Like, why is the government involved in this in the first place when it shouldn't be? That should be simply private sector things. I hate subsidies just outright for anything. Oil, gas, you know, cancer research. I don't like subsidies. I understand why they do them, so I don't really ever say much about those because, you know, it's a good program. But, you know, the private sector does a whole lot more. But she didn't go in on the private sector, did she? No, she went in on Donald Trump. Now, I wonder why that is. Maybe because these people are deranged. But this is what Donald Trump had to say, as a matter of fact.
But I'll tell you what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear, but certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who is suffering greatly.
But that's not going to happen, Donald Trump, because these people continually just disparage people all the time. They disparage Trump. They disparage Republicans for no reason sometimes, right? Like, and it kind of all boils down to every accusation is a confession with these people constantly. That's always on the table. But you never see these people go in on Democrats at all. Ever. It's always Republicans. Republicans bad, Republicans bad, Republicans bad. And it's getting quite old at this point. You know, and it's funny because they can't seem to see anything in front of them, right? Like, once again, going back to that speech that Donald Trump had, these people, you know, I just have a mental picture of Al Green standing up and shaking his cane at Donald Trump. And for what? What has Donald Trump done that's bad except try to save this country? These are the same people that are signing off on $1.8 trillion deficit spending. Of course, that's Republicans too. But, you know, Republicans, at least they act like they don't like it, right? Democrats, they're all for it. They just want to keep continuing to do this. We covered that article the other day with Democrats talking about, well, we need to keep everything. We need to raise the budget, as a matter of fact. Like, what are you talking about here? These people are crazy. And we have a problem in this country right now. We have a spending problem. And the government spends way too much money. We're finding all these programs. And you know what? What I find shocking about all this, we're never going to get any criminal charges to come from any of this. All these far-left ideologically driven programs that we've been signing off on for decades at this point. Nobody's ever going to get charged for corruption. Nothing. None of that stuff. Nobody's going to go to jail. Nobody's going to be held account. That's just money blown, and that's it. You know, thank goodness Donald Trump is actually stopping these programs, because it is absolute nonsense that we have to spend money on things like
$22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is.
I was just about to ask what that meant.
$8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender.
No. Look at that.
This is real.
That's real.
It's simply ridiculous what these people have been doing in Congress. It blows my mind every single time. And, it makes me sick to my stomach at certain points to find out that, all the taxes that I've paid over the years have been going to nonsense, waste, abuse, fraud, corruption, funneling money to GMOs to then turn back around and funnel that money right back into the Democratic Party. Like, I'm surprised they haven't found anything, money going out from USAID going to NGOs going to the Republican Party, as a matter of fact. Right? Because, and they say, oh, Republicans won't snitch on themselves. Well, you know what? Elon Musk used to be a Democrat, as a matter of fact. He's a very moderate person. I don't think he's a registered Republican, as a matter of fact. I could be wrong on that, but, he was a lifelong Democrat, just like Donald Trump. But the Democratic Party has gone so far left, they've left the party behind. I got my next story coming up is pretty bad for the Democrats. Talking about the Supreme Court race going on up in Wisconsin. A lot of Democrats came out to rail against Donald Trump. But that wasn't the only thing they were railing against. They were railing against the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party at this point has no scruples. They have no message, and their support has fallen off by the wayside a lot. It's heavily gone. And, nobody wants to support the insanity of the Democratic Party. I'm surprised that Kamala Harris got as many votes as she did. I'm really shocked by that. It wasn't shocking to me that Donald Trump won. I was shocked to see Kamala Harris get so many votes. And it's crazy, y'all. The amount of time that it took to count all those votes. They were still counting 2 months later? Something like that. Was just utterly absurd. But, the Democratic Party, they really need to get their heads on straight. They need a major turnaround. I'm not sure what they could do. Gavin Newsom, speaking of that podcast with Charlie Kirk, Gavin Newsom actually asked Charlie Kirk for advice on messaging. Actually asked Charlie Kirk for advice on this. What? Are you serious? And he's getting absolutely smeared by leftists on Blue Sky right now, currently. It's currently going on. He is getting blasted into oblivion. They are mad that he talked to Charlie Kirk. This is a major problem in this country, y'all. We can't seem to talk to each other anymore. You've got your few individuals out there that don't have a problem with it, but for the most part, these people are just so deranged with Republicans because of mainly the corporate press, the mainstream news. Sometimes you can't blame these people, because if you listen to MSNBC, you would think that Republicans are evil incarnate. But I have a message to all of those people. Just sit back just for a second. Put your rational thinking cap on for a second. Do you think that the Republican Party would have that much support if they were that evil? Think about that for a second, right? Same on both sides, right? We look at the Democratic Party like that's just abject evil going on over there, right? But it's not the voters. It's not the people that we need to be talking to, right? There is a lot of evil in both parties, as a matter of fact. But that doesn't represent the whole. That doesn't represent the most of the voters or the politicians. There's a lot of bad politicians. But I chalk a lot of that up to just having no scruples whatsoever. But we need discourse in this country, and that has become a major problem with Democrats. They refuse to talk to anybody, and as a matter of fact, they will excoriate you into oblivion for actually talking to the other side? How do you find some sort of common ground with these people at this point? Right? When your worldviews are so vastly different, right? From the right-wing sphere of influence to the left-wing sphere of influence. Right? They're vastly different. Most of the time at this point, like most issues, they're unreconcilable. Like, how do we get back to normality? How do we get, like, personally, I think shutting down, like, MSNBC would be a good start. You know, what CNN is currently doing with Scott Jennings, that's a good start. Bringing in more Republicans, bringing in more MAGA people to get out there and actually spread the common sense message that we're trying to push. But all of these platforms, NBC, CBS, ABC, all of them, you know, even Fox has their problems, right? Because Fox lies in the other direction. You know, but corporate news at this point, they just lie and lie and lie and lie. And it is making people deranged as hell. It's utterly insane what's going on in this country. So how do we get back to normality? I really don't have any answers for you guys. But, you know, if I had a message, listen to people. Stop thinking about what you're going to say next and listen for a second. Right? Let's get on an issue. Let's find somewhere where we agree. And then we can build upon that. Let's come together where we agree, talk about, let's work those issues out, and then we can reconcile our differences where we do disagree. That's what we've got to find common ground with everybody in this country. We've got to get the Democratic Party back to normality, because we cannot have this just abject evil over here going on and have this mainstream news just constantly smearing Republicans into oblivion for no apparent reason. All right, like everything that's going on with USAID. I could see how some people might be scared, but, you know, they're saying, oh, it's illegal. Oh, he can't do that. They're actually telling people that what Donald Trump is doing is illegal, right? As all these things are going through their court cases, I've been noticing they're being overturned one by one by one because they can't prove irreparable harm. Like, I almost covered 2 other stories. It wasn't a Supreme Court, it was a appellate court order that allows Doge to go into the Treasury, as a matter of fact. So get ready for that, y'all. That's the one I've been waiting on, because that's the Treasury. That's where, you know, that's the department that handles all the payments. As a matter of fact, all the money goes through the Treasury, as a matter of fact. So I can't wait for them to go through that so we can actually see and get confirmation on all of these USAID payments, all this nonsense that's been going on, so we can actually find the money. We can follow the money trails to see where all this money has been going. I cannot wait for all of that. So get ready for that. You know, these, like the firing of the workers, that's getting overturned. A lot of those are getting overturned. A lot of these people are being fired because the government has just become way too bloated. And the corporate press, they'll get out there and say it's irreparable damage to the country. But don't ever explain how. This is how you know they're lying. They never explain exactly how this is harming the country, or how is it illegal exactly. Right? And plus, you got to think about it. Does it make any sense that these people cannot be fired? It's illegal to fire these people. That's absurd on its face. It's illegal to fire people. What if they just don't work at all? Or you mean to tell me it's still illegal to fire them? No, I'm sorry. There's got to be a mechanism, some sort of levers to pull, once again, that we can get these people out of there. Get them back into the private sector, and let's expand the private sector, for crying out loud. We don't need to expand the federal government, for goodness sakes. Government can't do everything. But I've been rambling for a while, so I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Blows my mind every time, y'all. These people are just disgusting on cable news at this point. They just don't know how to handle Donald Trump, and everything is bad, everything is illegal, everything is evil incarnate for some reason. They cannot even see that he's trying to honor a 13-year-old kid, and they want to take jabs at Donald Trump in the process. It's ridiculous. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.